afternoon, Stitch Roadies. Thank you for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, just as a disclaimer, this is just one cross-stitcher's journey through cross-stitch. I want to have full disclosure up front. My superpower is enabling, so if you don't want to be enabled, you maybe don't want to be here. But yes, and for those of you that have been coming along on this journey, thank you for coming. Thank you for hanging in there with all the chaos that ensues. Today I am coming to you from the Beehive, which is my quilting room. It has a, just so you know, I pulled a black curtain. The previous owners, this was a media room with a movie projector and a screen and that kind of thing, which is not our cup of tea. But I left the curtains up because of the backlighting sometimes, and I do get up sometimes very early in the morning to stitch, and when I turn the light on, it's like a fishbowl here for anybody. And there are a lot of walkers really early in the morning that have their headlamps on. So I pull that curtain. Okay, that was enough blither blather. Yeah. So today I'm going to share with you a little update, also plans, and how to make a pillow. I am specifically doing this for all of you that are interested in an easy way to make a cross-stitch pillow. And in talking with Scott, who stitches in Spain, he was interested in that, so I said, well, okay, I'm fairly basic, fairly quick. I like to get stuff done. I cut corners literally, and you know, I don't sweat the small stuff. So if you are a precision stitcher who is a rule follower, and those of you who may have a lot of judgment, this may not be the place for you, because none of that exists here. This is just one person's journey, and I like to get it done. I don't like to sweat a whole lot of the small stuff. If something is bugging me and I don't have time for a tantrum, I try to figure out another way to do it. But a good tantrum sometimes can help. So today will be about pillows, and I'm going to make these two pillows. And in a conversation that Scott was having with another cross-stitcher on a live on Facebook, they were talking about eating and drinking around your cross-stitch. I eat and drink around all of my craft. I spend a lot of time in my craft room, and I need to keep my strength up. So today I have here, sometimes people will see what's around my sewing machine and it'll just freak them out. But today I'm having a little bit of the last of the fresh watermelon I cut up, and then I love this cup that Becca from SamBrie Stitches gave me, Be the Change. She's a real Ray Dunn fan, and this actually is the most incredible. I mean, if I put ice in this cup in the evening, because I'm kind of drinking water all day, when I get up in the morning, the water is cold that I haven't drank. Okay. So life updates, a little bit of what's been going on in my stitching world. I didn't bring all my projects here just because I didn't. I just didn't. But I am making progress on my Prairie Schooler Santas bit by bit, but I'm only stitching those during coffee time in the morning. And it's very interesting how the Prairie Schooler Santas, to look at them, look fairly simple. I have heard more and more people talk about how they've done more ripping out with those Prairie Schooler Santas. And it kind of has they only have like maybe 4 or 5, 6 basic colors in each chart. It's not like a gazillion colors. But it's quite interesting. On the other hand, it's easy to fudge it if you don't want to rip it out. Some people are perfectionists. Not me. Not me. I am continuing to work on the Cross Stitch University with the Fat Quarter Shop. That is a very, very sweet pattern. I'll put the link below. You have to go to their site. It's a free pattern. But let me tell you, in the kit that you get, if you buy the whole shebang, the scissors are like my all-time favorite scissors right now. They are so amazing. And I'm a scissor hoarder. Yeah, I'm a scissor hoarder. So, but right now they're my favorite scissors. I will warn you, if you are new to the channel, that my superpower is enabling, and I use it to the fullest. You know the old adage, misery loves company? Well, cross-stitchers love company. Someone should chart that. Cross-stitchers love company. We are most excited when we have someone that's doing the same chart and just kind of, sparks us on, and you go on Instagram or Facebook or you watch a floss tube, and oh my gosh, it just makes you like, oh, I want that, I need that, I have to have that. I'm beginning to wonder if you had a book, like a journal, like we all have these journals that we think it's gonna make us more organized. No, I just keep changing journals. It just makes me, it just makes me realize how elaborate I can make my cross-stitching life. That's a better word, huh? How elaborate. But we like the company of stitch-alongs, and when you watch floss tubes, and I totally get that you can't watch every floss tube out there, you would get nothing done. You would literally get nothing done. And you get enabled, like, it's part of the journey, part of the community. So this last week, I was watching a couple of, I actually watched 3 floss tubes, 4, 5. It's like, see, that's it. As many charts as there are floss tubers out there, and new ones coming on board, which is totally, it's such a growing community. And so I was watching Stitching with the Sisterlies, which is Colleen and Cheryl. And they are 2 sisters. Colleen's the older, Cheryl's the younger. And they currently do not live in the same state, but they do their floss tube together. And it's a combination of quilting and cross-stitch. Win-win for me. But they're doing a couple of sals, and the one sal that I am on board with is the stitching together the Generations, which is the one that Cheryl is hosting. And it's the hashtag is hashtag Generations. Generations Sal. And I'll put that in the link below. But what you have to know, first of all, is that people, cross-stitchers, we want company, and more so now than ever before, because just when we think we're going to open the doors and get together with groups, we have a new variant. And it makes you realize the world is going to be like a roller coaster. It's going to be like a roller coaster. I mean, I was working in the medical field for years, and we had one thing after another where there were restrictions about our process. You know, we had AIDS, we had H1N1, we had Ebola, we had SARS, we had MRSA. You know, I mean, it's just gotten progressively far-reaching. And part of that is the world has gotten smaller, not physically, but in community, in that we are traveling, and, you know, I just love traveling, but you're traveling all over the place, and it just is bound to happen and continue to happen, because we're not just our own little spot here. We are a globe. And so this last year has made the cross-stitch, I know I'm blathering and I'm trying to make my point, but I have no idea what that point is. Okay, if you're new, don't be scared. For those of you that have been here, you know what's going on. Okay, just wait her out, wait her out. But this community and the floss tubes that keep coming up for us are making our virtual world connected, which is, yeah, been a lifesaver this last year, hasn't it? Okay, so where was I going with that? Yeah, what I know some of you are yelling at me about. Yeah, I get your point. Move on, move on. Well, oh, yeah, SALs. So, for those of you who are new, SALs are stitch-alongs. In the quilting world, they're called quilt-along. And someone will be excited about a chart and then put it out on their floss tube and say, or Instagram or Facebook, and say, does anyone want to stitch it with me? And inevitably, there'll be a bunch of other people that have wanted to stitch it, have it kitted up, and are ready to stitch it. But then there's a whole bunch of people that are like, I'm so in, and I got to go get that chart. Well, that's where I am right now. Cheryl on Stitching with the Sisterlies showed a chart that I was like, in, sign me up, get me a ticket, pick me up, yeah, whatever, I'm here. And it's hashtag Generations Sal. So whenever you stitch on a particular chart that has a hashtag and is a Sal, on Instagram you can hashtag that. You put the little hashtag and the name of it, and then everybody else who is also doing it can see your progress or make comments, encouragements. Well, when I saw that chart, I knew I was in. Here, I was not going to do all the starts. Sampler September, not do all, of course this starts in October, but not doing my normal crazy. I was going to be adulting this month. September was my adulting month. That kind of has gone out the window between a combination of Cheryl on Stitching with the Sisterlies and Colorado Girl. Can't. Oh, geez. You know, here we go. I watch her all the time. Kansas Girl in a Colorado World. Yeah. Kansas Girl in a Colorado World. Yeah. Sometimes I twist things backwards, and so I have to think, was it a Colorado Girl in a Kansas World? No, that doesn't sound right. But I'll put the link below. I enjoy watching her. And the last episode I watched just spoke to me. And that's what we look for. That's what we look for in a floss tube. We don't want to be lectured. We don't want to feel guilty or jealous or whatever it is. We want to be embraced, encouraged. "Come into my web," said the spider to the fly, if the fly was a cross-stitcher. But let me tell you, listening to her, and it was like, you know, kind of like you're under hypnosis, listening to her say, you know, I'm going to do all the sals. I'm going to say yes to all the sals. If I have the chart, there's the caveat. If I have the chart, of course she said, if I have the chart, or even if I don't have the chart, if I have the chart, I'm all in for a sal. Someone can contact and say, do you want to do a sal? What the heck? There's no cross-stitch police. You know? And so what if you have a gazillion projects in process? There's no one saying this page of the sal has to be done by this date. Yeah. I don't know. I felt like I was in one of those revivals where she was just saying, start the sals. Bring them on. I'm ready for it. I am ready for it. Back to Cheryl, Stitching with the Sisterlies. Stitching together through the generations. Loved the chart. Loved the sentiment. I looked at the pictures by Twin Peak Primitives, and there it was, quilting, cross-stitching, and spinning. And my father-in-law was a spinner. He was a weaver. And it gave me chills when I saw the chart. So I'm going to be starting that in October. Hopefully I can get the chart and have it kitted up by then. But I am all in on it. I haven't been able to get through to Acorns and Threads. I don't know what's going on with the phone, but I'm going to keep trying today. So I've got that on my horizons. You know, later this month I'm going to be starting my anniversary start. My 2 samplers are going well. I got the Halloween Ouija by Tiny Modernist, and then Diligence, by Needlework Press. I'm already through both alphabets or the first 2 alphabets and now into the numbers. And I'm glad once I get the numbers done today, then I'm going to be able to switch back and forth into some color, which always, you know, someone asked me, why do you always start on the edge? On Instagram, I had a picture. I'm an edge starter. It's scary sometimes, and there's a risk, because I really calculate everything. I eyeball everything. This looks like 2 or 3 inches from the edge. As many of you know, sometimes that didn't work out for me. But, you know, I know that there's this understanding or thought that if you're doing a floss tube, you're an extrovert. I am here to say almost, I would say a lot of the time, that's not true. What I can do in front of this camera is much more exhausting to do in front of a group of people. I am a back row person. When I go into a movie theater, I sit in the back row with my back to the wall. When I was in college, I sat in the back row. I feel safe. I need an edge in so much of my life. And so to start a cross stitch in the center would actually create somewhat of an anxiety issue for me. Starting on the edge is cake for me. So I do start on the edge. I have to be very careful that when I start on the edge, I truly understand where the other edge is going to be. Or, yeah, it has created problems in the past. But will I change my behavior? Absolutely not. This little spot here in this corner with my back here and a wall with windows that I can look out, but my back is to this wall, is like, it never occurred to me to put my sewing machine anywhere else in this room. Yeah, no. So, edge starter. So I told you about Diligent, I told you about Halloween Ouija was going along, Prairie Schooler Santa's going along, the Cross Stitch University is going along, and now I'm pretty much going to be charting on those 4 until the 24th, which is our anniversary, when I will, so probably this week I'll start kitting up Ida and Ira. Yeah, I'll probably start kitting those up. Just because, you know, we have lots going on, and I might need to have it all ready to go on the road if we go camping again. Who knows if we get to go camping? School's starting here. My older grandson, I think next week, he'll be starting school. So it's frightening. It's frightening in some ways for me because he's not of an age that even could be vaccinated, even if his mother wanted that. But so I want my peeps to stay safe, just like I want all of you to be safe. I guess we're ready for cross stitch pillowcase making. So, like I said, or did I? What size you want this cut to is totally individually dependent. For me, on a cross stitch pillow, I like a 1/2 inch from the design edge. Purely personal. If you want to put buttons on it, you might want to have it larger. So it's kind of like your decision. Because I sew my pillows on my sewing machine that has a 1/4 inch foot, I know that my seam is going to be a 1/4 inch. And I like a 1/2 inch on the edge. So I cut my edge at 3/4 inch from the design edge. Totally me. Now, if you don't have a 1/4 inch foot on your sewing machine, you can just put masking tape, take a ruler, measure from your needle, 1/4 inch, and use that masking tape edge as a guide, which I did for years before I ended up with a machine that had the option for a 1/4 inch foot. Because I stitch a lot on linen, and different linen ravels, I back my piece with Pellon SF101. And it is a lightweight fusible that you put the sticky side against your stitched piece, and then you steam iron it and it sticks. So that white piece there is stuck on there. Because I use so much Pellon, I save all the chunks and pieces that get cut off, because then I piece it together. No one's going to see the inside of your pillow. And so this has two pieces butted up against each other to make the back. I usually will fuse the Pellon onto my piece, the wrong side of my piece, and then cut it out to the size I want, so it's exactly the same size. I do the same thing with my backing, and the reason I do that is because usually if you're using a cotton fabric for your back, usually this is a little heavier or thicker, if you want to call it that, than cotton. So by choosing my piece of cotton and backing it with Pellon SF101, you give this a little more heft. You give it a little more heft. So I have my two pieces. Now there's two ways of doing this, and I'm going to just be doing it the way I normally do. But you can slit an opening in the back and turn it out inside out by coming through that hole in the back and then fusing a piece of fabric or wool or a label on the back and stitching it down so you don't have that, you don't see where you stitched, which if you're a fairly decent stitcher, and especially if you're putting trim on it, you're not going to see it anyway. So now that I have my two pieces together, you're going to put right sides together. If you were a precise stitcher, you would pin these just kind of together so they don't slip around. I'm just doing that for the camera. Normally I don't pin anything. I just go for it. And I generally want my opening where I'm going to turn it inside out on the bottom. And I usually leave about an inch and a half open. So I'm going to be stitching from here all the way around. And what happens is wherever I started, I backstitch one or two stitches just to kind of give it a little bit of strength when I'm yanking it inside out. And I backstitch on the corner because I'm going to be poking that corner to make it as sharp as I can when I turn it inside out. So I wanted to have a little bit of thread heft there. So I'm going to turn my machine on. The other tools that you will need for this are a chopstick, and these usually come in the bag of polyfill. And this is a decision you get to make, is whether you want it just with polyfill or whether you want it with, and polyfill, you know, is this kind of stuff, that pillows, or whether you want it to be heavy with a desert blend. This is crushed walnut shells. Some people use sawdust, some people use a little heftier, some people of crushed walnut shells, you can put lavender in, which I do, but so many people are scent sensitive that I don't and you can get this at any feed store or pet store. It's like lizard, it's for, ideal for desert dwelling reptiles, like bearded dragons, or monitors, or desert skinks. Yeah. So it depends on whether you want your pillow to be heavy or light, whether you do it with polyfill or not. I kind of do a combination of two, and the reason I fill it with a combination of two is, well, one thing is if you're going to use it like a pin cushion, that walnut shells will sharpen your needles, and it gives it more stability because of the weight. But I always put a little bit of polyfill at the opening, because that crushed walnut shell will be all over the place. And when I put that polyfill in there, it keeps it down there when I'm hand stitching it closed. That's just what I do. You don't have to do it that way. Okay, so we're gonna, oh, and then I have my funnel to get the shells in, and I have my little teacup that I pour the, yeah. So, you ready? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to the bottom of my pincushion, and I'm taking a couple of stitches, and then I'm back stitching a couple of stitches just to make it kind of strong right there. And then I'm going to the corner, and then I'm back stitching. Now I'm turning it, back stitching. So I'm back stitching on the corners just to make it kind of strong there. And you know, I don't sweat it a lot. I eyeball the 1/4 inch. And I don't measure the opening. I eyeball it. So it's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches at most. I make it as small as I think I can turn it inside out, only because I don't want to do a lot of hand stitching to stitch it closed. But that's just me. If you're an accountant type and you need precision, yeah, you might want to measure it. Okay. So there is my pillow so far. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut off a little bit of the dog ear. And that is because it's less to deal with when you're turning it inside out. And I don't cut a whole bunch off, just enough to get some of the bulk out from when I'm turning it inside out. And I don't want to frighten you, but turning it inside out can be like birthing a baby. I know. And so now you have to just, I don't know nothing about birthing no pillows. No, now you have to kind of just work at it. Gently work at it. Don't make it like an Olympic wrestling event, but just take your time. And I usually grab it from the back fabric, not from my front fabric. Only because I don't want to damage my stitching at all. But see, I'm just working it out a little bit. Don't get nervous. Thank goodness for editing. G can edit this and make it look like I did it in 5 seconds instead of 3 minutes. I was a labor and delivery nurse, so let me just say this might be a little bit easier for me than for you, Scott. Yeah, I don't know. And for that reason, sometimes I use these. These are needle drivers from the OR. We used to throw them away. They're awesome for pulling, but the last minute stuff out. In the meantime, I'm just trying to work it ever so gently. And this would be why you might want to make the opening a little bigger, but then you have more to sew closed. So it's kind of like a choice. So I have it all turned inside out, but now I tend to take my little forceps things and kind of pull that out a little bit. You can also use that chopstick. And where's my opening? Down here. And I kind of run that chopstick all the way along the edge, like that. Because it's kind of a blunt wooden stick, it doesn't poke through, which is nice. So see, I have it kind of roughly turned inside out. It's all sewn together. And I tend to take a little pin and just kind of lift that corner out a bit more. You don't have to lift it totally out. It'd be hard to get it totally out, and I still don't know if I'm going to put trim on it or not. So some of the corners will be covered up by the trim anyway, but okay, now I'm going to go press it and come back and fill it, and I'll show you that, okay? Well, I have my pillow all pressed and ready to fill, and so I'm going to this bottom edge, and I've got my Desert Blend, my little bit of polyfill, and I stick my funnel right in that pillow. And this kind of makes a little bit of a mess, and I don't want to stand up to get out of the camera range, but I will scoop up a little bit of that Desert Blend and I'm going to just pour it in there and just let it kind of fill up down there. Feeding the pillow, basically. And you can fill it as much or as little as you want. You can use polyfill instead of the Desert Blend. But I just wanted to show you how I do it. And I kind of fill that up there. You know, you can decide how fat you want your pillow. I kind of use the end of this funnel to so I kind of have as much of the Desert Blend as I want in it. And so now I want to stitch this closed, but I hate to have all that Desert Blend all over my table. So for the remainder of the stuffing, I just stick this polyfill in. And it's just a matter of getting it in there. And this keeps, when you're stitching the pillow closed, it keeps the, whether it be sawdust or the walnut shells, from coming out when you're stitching it. Kind of like a plug, putting a plug in the dam. And once you sew your pillow closed, then you can mush it around some more and distribute the, so see, I have the polyfill up there at the top, and then I'm just going to sew this closed. And I usually just do, you can kind of Google it, like a ladder stitch I sew this closed with. And I take the smallest possible bite that I can, because I don't want my stitching to show too much, although it is on the bottom of the pillow. And this is all such an individual choice, so you know, whereas maybe because I'm an experienced labor and delivery nurse, leaving the smallest possible hole to birth my pillow is more comfortable than having to have a bigger opening to close that, to stitch closed. I make it the smallest possible opening so that I can not have so much stitching to do. So there's my pillow all done. So now I just kind of mush it around to kind of get the Desert Blend. The walnut shells kind of moved all around. And make it kind of nice and pretty. I just love this. There's a pillow. There's a pillow. Well, thank you for hanging in there, if you did till the very end. You know what was surprising to me, on another note, was that the information that came to me from YouTube showed that 40% of the people that watch my videos regularly are not subscribed. So please, if you have a chance, double check. Sometimes for whatever reason, YouTube kicks you off, and please check that you're subscribed. I would appreciate a thumbs up, and let's see what we can do next time, okay? You take care, and I hope that this helped some of you not sweat the pillow making. Thank you.